Hello and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast, part two of my interview with Ryan Keefe. Thank you. I hope you enjoy it. I should make you do my editing.
Yeah, we definitely could. No, but
It's
I'm the
good.
same as you. Like before the podcast, I did I went to the gym, and so basically it's just all water.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah. You know,
yeah, so
I'll tell you something I've discovered recently about gym, and I don't know if
ah
this works for other people, but like I've discovered if I eat like a lot the night before, and
yeah.
then go the next day like earliest like 11, 12, I suddenly have
Hmm.
way more energy and strength, and then I'm able to do loads of weights and stuff, so I'm in like my happy zone. Whereas
Yeah,
if I leave the gap long enough, I just have no strength. So I guess it makes sense. I don't know.
yeah, because that's where all your energy, all your calories are coming from. So your calories are your energy, absolutely. But that's why a lot of people do like fasting,
Yeah,
before they go to the gym if they're trying to lose weight,
I did that.
because then you're just burning all your calories. So yeah, I get that. That makes a lot of sense. But no, but to your point of just staying humble, like you said, I mean, you just ultimately have to stay humble. So let me ask you. So on TikTok, which video did she see?
I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't ask. I didn't want to know.
Really?
Yeah, no, because like it's just awkward. You know.
So do you? I mean, on TikTok, because I don't personally have TikTok. I had it for a while, but then I got off of it because I was just like, this is just too much. You know what I mean? There's just too much stuff, around here on TikTok. So I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna get off of it. But what do you usually post on your TikTok?
So I've got three accounts. I've got one
Okay.
for the podcast clips, one that's like my mess around, use TikTok for what it's intended for and jump on the trends and reach people.
Hmm.
And then I've got my main account, which is more for like self tapes, music, like songs, stuff like that. And
Okay.
that's how I've split it out really, and it kind of works. It's cool. I mean, I purely use it to interact with people, to spread awareness, and to I have fun with it and stuff, but I look at it as an advertising tool, like to promote myself, to reach people, you know, it's why I do everything that I do online. It's free media that you can use to promote yourself and reach people, and who knows where that could lead? Who knows who you could end up working with? I mean, it's highly unlikely that this stuff will ever lead to me getting any acting opportunities, but you don't know. You
You
never know.
don't.
Yeah,
You don't.
you just don't know. And to be fair, it seems that more and more people and institutions are taking note of platforms such as TikTok and taking it more seriously and using it. So,
Mhm.
I mean, maybe it's a matter of time before the acting industry starts taking it seriously. But I mean, but then again, I don't know. I've had a lot of rejections lately, which
Yeah, but
make
that
me
just happens.
no,
That's
no,
normal.
I know, but it's interesting like rejections. Like it's not just like, oh, sorry, we're not interested. That I can deal with, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll give you a good example. Do you have a website called Spotlight in the US or no?
I'm we might.
Okay.
I personally haven't heard of it, but we might. But go ahead. What's that?
There's one here in the UK called Spotlight, and
Okay.
it costs a bunch of money to get on there. And also, there's like a whole process where they review all of your acting credits and see if you're like good enough to be on their site and everything, right? And this is what I've heard. Apparently, in the industry, it's like that's what the at least the UK directors look at and take seriously. So if you don't have a cast spotlight profile, then like who cares? We don't care about you kind of attitude. Not completely, but that's what the information I've been given. And
The gist of it.
I got an email back from someone, and they were like, "Oh, do you have a spotlight profile? We can't find you." And I said, "Oh no, sorry, I haven't got one yet, but I've got an IMDb with credits. I've got a
Yeah. Hmm.
backstage profile. I've got a website. I've got loads of examples of I've got lots of examples of why you should employ me." And
Right.
they just bluntly just turned around and said, "Oh, we only work with spotlight actors." And I just screenshotted it, and I was like, "Cool, nice one." I'm gonna collect all of these one day, and then
Yeah.
if I ever make it, I'll just make a collage of every single rejection I ever got.
like, look what everyone missed. Look what everyone missed. But look where I'm at now.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
No,
it's. Do you know
I know
what?
what
Like,
you mean.
it comes down to this. Like, being rejected,
Yeah,
that's fine. That's part of life, right? But
sure.
how you deliver that message, that's totally up to you. That's yeah. You can be a jackass about it. You can be nasty about it, or you can be really nice about it. I've had many really respectful rejection letters recently that have said like everything from like, oh, hey, really sorry, like we're quite full right now, we're not working with anyone else, but thank you. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. You know, someone took the time out of their day to tell me that, to let me know, and they were respectful about it. And I respond in due course. I'm like, hey, thank you so much for considering me, and thank you for your time, and wishing you all the best. You know, and that's cool.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a huge difference.
Sure.
That they took that time as opposed to versus just not saying anything back at all,
Well, I
right?
mean, I understand that too. Like that's okay. If you don't have the time to respond, it's understandable. I mean, think about how many hundreds of thousands of people are applying. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
to even get a response is a big deal. That's the way I looked at
Right.
it. But people that are rude or like just crappy, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't think it's necessary. Like, for instance, I got something recently with this company where they were like, oh, yeah, we'd be happy to work with you, but oh, yeah, you just don't have the numbers. Screenshot. Thanks for that. Appreciate
This
that.
this you mean like the numbers, like the followers or
Online.
whatever?
Yeah. Like, oh, okay.
That's
What's
what I was gonna bring up.
there's so many
Exactly, is that
companies, so
that's
many
what they're
companies.
doing.
That's the thing. So many companies and institutions equate that to like, you don't have
Hmm.
we don't have 100,000, so you're nothing.
Hmm.
You're nothing to
That's
us. You're dead to us.
exactly it. And when you brought up Spotlight, I promise that was what I was gonna bring up. Is that a lot of these companies now, they are taking TikTok and Instagram and all this stuff so serious because they feel that it's marketing, right? If you have 100,000 people following you, they're thinking, okay, well, if we put this person in a movie, X amount of, and they have their percentages, and they have their market people that do this for a living, and
So,
all this kind of stuff. They're like, X amount of people are going to probably watch this movie or watch this commercial or, buy this brand. And so, that's what you see at the bottom of these. If you have 5,000 followers, apply. If you don't apply, that's where
well,
the industry is going.
have you seen that then? Because I've not seen that specifically, but that
I've
happens in the
seen that.
States.
I've seen that.
Wow.
Looking for X amount of thousands of followers,
So,
looking
so
for
you
X
like,
amount of.
yeah. So like, oh, you don't apply if you don't have 5,000 followers or something.
Exactly. And they won't say don't apply, but they'll say looking for X amount of thousands of followers. Do you
That's
have a huge TikTok,
mad.
yeah, a following, a huge Instagram following? Send us your social media, and blah blah blah. Yeah, oh yeah. That's where these companies are going because it's free marketing for the company. And I mean, not free, you pay like a little TikTok or Instagram or whatever, you pay them some money, but the money that they're expecting to get back off of that investment, for X amount of followers that people have, yeah, I mean, it's easy. And then for TikTok or an Instagrammer, if you have X amount of followers, now you can go promote yourself anywhere, and companies will believe that you're a gold mine. It's completely changed. The world has completely changed now. Now everything is social media and exposure, experience, how many people know you. So, I yeah, I know, I get it. I completely get it. Now, I haven't heard of the Spotlight thing. How much does it cost? How much is Spotlight usually?
I think it's like £300 a year or something. I don't know. Something. I mean, look, it might not sound like a lot. I think there might even be a monthly thing, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, and it also kind of made me think, like, well, what credits mean something as well? Because they rejected me because I didn't have enough, like, my credits weren't reputable or something. But what I've got on IMDb is I've been featured on a few podcasts. I've been featured in audio dramas. I'm the lead in a short film that had a fairly sizable production, and I'm a supporting artist in another production that had a big production as well, budget as well. Um, so it's not the biggest thing ever, but it's something. I would have thought
Right.
that meant something. I mean, I've got other credits which are uncredited, which would help, but they won't ever get recognized. Like, for instance, I was in Tenet, but it won't ever get given as a credit because
Right.
I'm not in it. I don't have any speaking. And that's the thing I found as well. Unless you have a speaking line, apparently you don't get credits.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Unless you, yeah, exactly. Unless you add something to it verbally, yeah, no one cares. You know?
That's a rule. Yeah, if you're in a movie, try even just to get one line in, just like no, because then you might get a credit.
Something, something, and then you know what? And then you put that on your reel, and your whole, you know, and then your editing software where your reel just basically looks like this because all you have is no. That's
Here's me
it.
in Mission Impossible. No, brilliant. There you go.
Brilliant.
A second.
Brilliant. Now you're listen, now you're union. Now you can get on Spotlight, and now your whole career just launched from that whole no, right?
But you never know, man. You never know.
Hey,
All right, man.
look, careers have launched for a lot less, right? Careers have launched for a lot less. And speaking of like everything that you see now, I mean, it's I think that's why because you brought it up about how, you know, being famous was easy because because there's so much saturation now. I think there's so much saturation with social media because of how you can go on social media, you can do something and go viral, and now you're famous. And it can be something stupid. You go viral, now you know, all it takes is that one video, or all it takes is that one encounter with somebody that you just posted online. You know, everything is online and it'll make you go famous. And so, oh, so let me ask you, do you think that now, because it is so easy to be recognized, you know, from a viral standpoint and just in general, do you think that that has affected the way talent is coming up in the world? Do you think that more people are saying, okay, well, I don't really necessarily need to be talented. I don't need to be a great actor. I don't need to be a great singer, writer, whatever. But do you think that now people are taking the easy way out and they're just like, oh, I'll just do something stupid on Instagram or TikTok and become famous? Or do you think that talent will always be important in the entertainment industry or becoming famous, or we'll say entertainment industry?
Fact of the matter is, we take acting as an example. Like, okay, yeah, maybe you might have a big following, but if you've never acted, if you don't have a talent for acting, then you're going to be a trash actor, aren't you? You know?
Right.
And at the end of the day, if you're making a production, a movie, depends what it is. If we're just like, oh, okay, I had a cameo in an Adam Sandler movie, then yeah, who gives a fuck, right? Like it's just for fun. But if like, okay, you've just been cast as okay, like here's a really good example, right?
Okay.
Harry Styles has been sort of going into acting more recently. You know, he's a big musician now. He's sort of transitioning into acting. And do you know what? From what I've seen, he's a good little actor. You know, he's clearly trained for it. He's clearly got something. He's been giving lead roles, and he deserves it. You know, different industry. Logan Paul is became big on YouTube. Has a background in amateur wrestling. Signed a contract with WWE and started
Mm-hmm.
wrestling for them. And you know what? Has actually done a fantastic job because he's better than some of the people on the roster who've been there years.
Yeah.
And it
Agreed.
comes down to work ethic and putting and taking it seriously. And that like hard work, and what you put into it will always be more important than your following or whatever. Because and don't forget, like your following can wean, it can disappear, and like again, there's a difference between being the flavor of the month versus being respected for what you do. Do you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like that kind of people respecting you for your craft and what you do means that they might be lifelong fans of your work. Whereas if you just get
Right.
like a viral video or viral videos, that doesn't necessarily mean that people are fans of your work. They might be, don't get me wrong. Like people could be
Right.
fans of your comedic style or whatever. But when you see people, especially people that like they get like one viral video and then they sort of build a like mini career off that. And like, I'm not taking anything from that, by the way. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that like I really do feel like there's a big distinction between being a celebrity online versus the acting industry and stuff like that. Like what I'm quickly learning is that yes, you might be able to build a presence online and be seen by more people and potentially even
Mm-hmm.
casting agents and stuff who might be looking at these websites. But the fact of the matter remains that the entertainment industry is still a separate entity that you have to prove yourself in, and you have to. And this is again why it makes sense to be humble and be easy to work with on sets and stuff, because you're going to get more roles, you're going to be able to be
Mm-hmm.
referred by more people you know whereas if it's all like, oh, I got this amount of following, I've got this many people following me, so this is why you should give me a part in the movie. that
Right.
might that might work for a few people, but I think a lot of actors, sorry, a lot of directors and such and are probably not going to want to work with you just
Right.
based
Because you
on
have an
that.
ego. Because you have an ego. Now
That
you automatically, in their mind, you automatic. And let's be
well, that
realistic.
that
Like,
but like, well, what does it mean? Like, let's say you've got 5 million followers, right?
okay,
And a director is thinking about whether or not to cast you in the movie. Like, okay, yeah, maybe that might be worth tapping into from a marketing standpoint. That might be worth tapping into. But at the end of the
right,
day, a movie has a budget, right? And then
sure,
it's projected sales. And if your acting is trash and it brings the movie down, and then that movie flops, who are they going to look at? They're going to look at you and be like, "You're the reason that this flopped."
right.
You know. I mean, we saw it with kind of with what was that movie? It's Morbin time. Morpheus, is it? No, not Morpheus. Morbius. Sorry,
Morbius.
Morbius.
Yes,
Gerard Leto.
Morbius.
Gerard Leto.
Yes.
That's interesting because okay, you had this huge actor, Gerard Leto,
Mhm.
and from what I understand, a not particularly great story. It was a big just power, no, big marketing ploy. They pumped loads of money into it, but it apparently just wasn't good. And the internet dunked on it and made memes about
Right.
it. And people in the industry looked at that like, oh, I think the production company looked at it like, oh, this is an opportunity. So when the movie originally flopped, they took it out of the cinema, which I didn't even know that companies did this, but yeah, they took it out of the cinema and then they re-released it, thinking that oh, it's got online buzz for the wrong reasons, but it's got online buzz, and then it
Right.
flopped again, and then they just took it away again, and it's like the internet world is different from the entertainment industry. It's a different world. And but that's not to say that people can't get opportunities because we have seen people get those opportunities, but they still have to work just as hard. I mean, you look at someone
Right.
like KSI, the rapper in the UK. He's done things like YouTube boxing and he's branched out and he's becoming a bigger celebrity more and more over time. But he still has to work just as hard. He has to work. Yeah, he gets opportunities to work with people in the industry and stuff, but he has to just bust his ass working really hard to get those opportunities still and continue to get those opportunities. So make no mistake, like it might make it a bit easier. It's the way I look at it is online status and followings
Mhm.
probably get you an interview, and that's it. You still got to prove yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I can see that. And I guess my and you actually answered it, pretty dead on. I guess my thing was like in an example of KSI, I mean, he has talent. You know what I mean? He actually has talent. So I would be more so speaking of, and you answered this actually, of like the person that does the viral videos, like you said, right? Like the viral videos that it's not talent, it's just so that way they can get out there and become famous. Don't care about acting, anything like that, just to kind of be famous. But that doesn't hold audiences' attention in the real world, in the entertainment world.
I agree.
In a movie that doesn't hold audiences' attention because you can do something stupid and videotape it, doesn't equate to, oh, he's going to be an amazing actor.
Well, I mean, if we go back to the Logan Paul example, I think that's a really good illustration of that or a demonstration of that because it's like, and me as a wrestler, I've been a lifelong wrestling fan. I kind of knew that he was going to be good, but only because he'd had that amateur wrestling background. If he had never stepped foot in a wrestling ring ever in his entire life and he'd never had any training, I would have been a bit more like, how's this going to
Mm,
go? Like maybe Bad Bunny
right.
is more of an example. The rapper, he also wrestled for WWE and did extensive training for it and was also really really good. Um, and he comes from music industry. Logan Paul comes from online celebrity status, but they both people looked at them. Wrestling fans looked at them like, is this really gonna? Is this gonna work? I don't know. I don't think this is gonna go down very well. And then it worked out,
Boom.
but because of hot, but they still had to prove themselves
Right.
to those audiences.
Right.
So yeah, they are. I agree with you. They are different industries, and you have to prove yourself, and that's it. Simple as that.
Yeah. They are completely different industries, and that's another thing I'm learning because, like you said, online status doesn't translate to real world status. So you think that there will always be that world for actors, actresses, singers, just talent. I'm just gonna say talent
What
and
again?
skill, of course.
Yeah, and also I think it comes back to our conversation before about the the difference in mediums, difference in content. Like movies and
Okay.
TV shows are longer forms of content,
Right.
and they require years and years of training and dedication and passion and and drive. And some of those people that are getting those breaks have been working very, very many years before they get them. Like I think the guy who got cast as Hopper in Stranger Things, the cop, he only entered acting later in his life, but he'd been pushing for a while before he got that role. And I think he was not even due to get that role. It just kind of came eventually, and then he
Hmm.
got it, and then it changed his life. But he was still working very, very hard for a number of years before he got there. And there's many instances of that where people have worked hard. I mean, and faced a lot of adversity, and eventually
Hmm.
they get their break, which gives me hope. By the way, I am looking at that.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you always hear about that story, right?
Sure.
You always hear about that. Oh, yeah, that person, they were living in their van for, 16 and a half years or since they were born. And then, just one day they stumbled upon somebody that gave them a chance. And next thing you know, they're rich. So you always,
It's
right? You
true.
always hear those
It's true.
stories.
My
You
go to is
always hear
always
those stories.
what's his name? Reba. Reba. Al Pacino
Yeah.
in The Godfather. He was broke around that time, and
Hmm.
I think it was the director Francis Ford Coppola didn't even want him as the lead. He was like against it, and like the rest of the people on set had to like push for him to be included.
Yeah.
Or I think maybe it was the production company or someone else pushed for him, but the director didn't want it or something like that. And you know, and he was an impasse in his career, and he got that role, and then look at how it
Changed his
changed
whole
his
life.
for real, and it was made for him that role. Couldn't imagine anyone else in that role.
Right. And, it just depends on the vision. But like I said, and so that's another thing that keeps you going because you're like, at any point in time, anything can change, right? At any point in time, anything, all it takes is that one eye, that one right person, that one opportunity, that one door open for somebody to contact you and be like, hey, I saw your podcast. And you know what? I like your setup. I like your questions. I like your, right? All it takes is that one thing. And that's why we keep doing it. That's why we keep putting it out there, putting it out there, putting it out there. Right. Because this is our truth. But at the same time, like anything can happen. And you know what
Absolutely.
they say, right before you get to the gold, that's when people usually stop, that's when they stop digging, right before they get to the gold. And so imagine you go your life and you stop, your podcast stops, you're like, I'm over it. I'm gonna go get a job. I'm just gonna be a wagey, and go get a job, right? And maybe one more podcast, somebody would have saw that podcast and been like, oh, I like him as an online host for such and such, whatever.
Damn, you're inspiring me here with this.
I mean,
Damn.
because it's
All right.
it's because it's true, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. Yeah, absolutely.
you know, that's part of the things that is so I think intriguing about this business is that literally you never know what's going to happen. You never know, and you can almost create your own future. Because that's what it is. You're creating something out of nothing. You look at your podcast. You had an idea, and now look at it. So it's
That's
just
true.
creating something out of nothing, being like, I have this idea. Okay, it's gonna suck at first, but I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna make it work.
Lord, did it suck.
Right? Exactly. And you look back at that and you're just like, oh,
Oh, cringe, man. So
right.
there's someone right now. Shout out to Witchy Pops and her friend who are checking out my older episodes,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna instead of looking at the like working our way backwards, we're gonna start from the beginning onwards." And I'm like, "Oh my god."
Oof.
I feel like some of the early ones are. I won't say trash. I'm still proud of them, but like, ooh, I did not find my footing for a while. Took me a while. I was just
Man.
shy. I was nervous.
But
Oh,
that's what happens. And that's the whole Simpsons thing. Like I was telling you, right? You just put it out there. It sucks. But after you watch it, you can see what you can tweak, what you need to tweak because it's right there in front of you. Because when you're in your own mind or even on paper, it's like, whatever, this sounds great. But when you put it out there, to visualize it and you're like, oh man. yeah, this is horrible. Okay, I know what I need to change. It's
This
a
is
different world. Right,
trash.
exactly. Exactly. Like this is, and that's similar for my first few seasons, episodes, seasons, whatever. I was like, man, this kind of sucks. Like I'm glad that, two people that are watching it like it, but this sucks, you know? And then you start getting ideas and you start being like, I can tweak this, I tweak that. And the next thing you know, you have a Simpsons been on for, 40 seasons.
Never know, man. You never know. All right, a couple of
That's
final questions for you, sir.
sure. Sure, sure.
What is happiness to you?
Oof. Oof. Happiness to me. You know what? Happiness to me, I think, is doing what I enjoy doing, which is this writing thing, and acting, like I said, occasionally. But I think just being able to do that, not having a schedule, being able to do and create what I want to create. I think that's happiness to me. Like when I'm in front of the computer and I'm editing a video or I'm writing, trying to come up with new ideas to write things. That's happiness, and it's so crazy because I know it's so simple, and when I try to explain to somebody, they're like, well, why don't you go traveling and why don't you do this and why don't you do, and I'm like, because it's cool, but that's not my idea of happiness. My idea of happiness is sitting down in front of my computer, with no cares in the world, right? No cares in the world. Like I'm just going to sit here. I have X amount of hours to create something or to edit something or to whatever, maybe get a pizza, and just be there. Maybe have some music or some, show on the side, just being there. That is my happiness. And then of course, and then the gym because,
Hey.
to kind of release all that. But no, overall, I think that's great. And then talking to people, meeting people that are on the same wavelength, because I've I've seen a huge difference in from California to Illinois. Because so currently, right now, I'm in Illinois, just for a few weeks or whatever. But the California mindset and being around different creative people, that's a lot different than being around people that might not necessarily understand the industry,
Mm.
you know, because I always feel like I have to tone it down a little bit, like the creative side, because people that don't understand will say, oh, you might be weird, right? But people that have a creative nature are going to be like, okay, I can kind of, you know what I mean? I can kind of see where you're going with that. And I think being around like-minded people is where I feel the happiest also, where I can like, say my ideas out loud, not worry about being judged and being like, okay, this is cool. I think that's, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's happiness. That's my form of happiness.
Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Keep going. just literally just keep going. I think that's it. It's just if you have an idea, do it, right? Because the people that are going to fault you for living out your idea are the ones that have ideas and they never attempted to live them out, right? But the people that have ideas and that are living them out, they understand your struggle, right? They understand how hard it is to formulate this idea into something worthwhile, and so they understand it, and so I think the best advice I ever got was just just keep going. If it sucks, it sucks, but you know what, you didn't fail because you tried. You would have failed if you were 70 years old and you were like, I wish I would have done this podcast, I wish I would have done this YouTube show. That's when you fail, right? But when you just keep going, okay, so it doesn't become successful in other people's world of successful, but you did it and now so I just keep going. Probably best advice, just who cares? Just keep going. Don't do it for the fame, don't do it for that, do it for you. Keep going. You have a few people watching or listening, hey, doing it for the right reasons.
What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
Plans change.
Don't they just?
Plan, plans change, and this can be. I mean, more people. I'm sure COVID, hit with everybody, and this is probably the biggest life lesson is that, well, actually, a couple of times because initially, I came to California to do finance. Like that's where I was transferred from, Illinois to do finance. And then that dealership shut down. And so I was like, okay, what do I do now? And then that's when the whole acting thing started. And, my whole life growing up, I would have never expected to be on TV, to be an actor, to do any of this stuff. But then that changed, right? When I, found out and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then coronavirus hit. And I was like, all right, another fork in the road, life change where you got to figure out, okay, this is going to change my life one way, this is going to completely change my life one way, which way do you go? So yeah, it's just expect, but kind of hold your expectations down low, work hard and do all your things, but don't get so caught up in it has to be like this. Don't be a perfectionist. It doesn't have to be like this. You can still get to the end goal by going like around, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be tunnel vision. Like other things that are going to come obstacles, you can still get there. It just might not be exactly how you thought it was going to be.
Solid
Does that kind
stuff.
of make sense?
Yeah, yeah, man.
Because I know everybody got hit with COVID. Like, how did that affect you? Did COVID affect you at all?
Hmm. Yes and no.
Yeah. So
I
what was
think
your no? What was your no? Because I can imagine the yes. What was your no?
I kind of realized that my life was quite boring.
Okay.
I realized I need to go out more and do things more. I'd kind of written like, okay, I'll give you some background. So like, um, I came back to England just before COVID hit, and then
Okay.
I moved up to where I live now, which is Manchester in the middle of England.
Yeah.
And it was a new thing for me. I'd never lived here before. I'm from down south in London, so it was all new for me.
Okay.
And I, I'd stopped working out. I let myself go. I naively thought that I would easily find work as soon as I came back, and then I ended up being unemployed for about a year and a half after that. So there was a lot of suckage on that front.
Yeah.
And I kind of had a lot of time to think, to be honest. And I realized a lot about myself. I started reflecting on the last 5 to 7 years of my life and what I'd learned, most of my 20s, basically.
Okay.
And yeah, I guess I kind of realized in that time that I wanted to pursue acting. I wanted to do things, all things creative. I wanted to, start taking care of myself again, and I wanted to pursue my dreams. I didn't want to just do a 9 to 5 anymore. And I realized I had to take the leap and do freelance work and stop
Mm-hmm.
being scared, basically. And it's been a, a, a process, and there's been a lot of steps to it, and it's still going. But um, those were probably the biggest things that I learned. About myself and what I needed to do and everything, and also just not writing myself off as well. I kind of wrote myself off as being like too old to go out and party. You're never too old to party. Just put that down now. And secondly,
Good.
yeah,
Good to know.
yeah, and also just you got to go out there and try different things. Like, yeah, you're getting older, and yeah, there are things that maybe you can't do anymore because you're a bit older, but there are other things you can do now that you're older. It's like
True.
it's entering different phases of your life. That's the way you got to look at it. New chapters in a book, and it's like, what am I going to fill the pages with? What am I going to do? What's going to be the next adventure? That's how I look at life now, and it's exciting. I'll be honest. Like my life right now is interesting,
Yeah.
and I've not felt
How
that
so?
well. Um, Acting is bringing a lot of different opportunities,
Yeah.
and I'm learning a lot. The podcast means I get to meet a lot of different people and interview amazing people from around the world, such as yourself.
Oh, thank you.
Um, Thank you for being on the show, man. when it comes to things like TikTok and doing the stuff online, I'm discovering that there are people that are fans of me, which is a getting used to that idea of having fans. That doesn't,
Right.
I don't feel like I'm what fans. But no, there's a lovely little community I got online that are wonderful, wonderful people, really supportive and just nice, and a real joy to learn from and entertain, try to entertain, you know.
Right.
Um, and then even just different things like trying different things out, like returning to bar work after like 5 years of not working in customer services. Like I was nervous about that,
Mm-hmm.
and I just do it to pay bills, that's it.
Of course.
But in addition to other freelance things that I do, but it's like I actually enjoy it, and it gets me out in the town center and doing things, meeting people, having drinks afterwards and stuff, and who knows who you can meet doing that. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of variety in my life where that before there used to be a lot of boring routine and I'd kind of written myself off. Now life is exciting and every day is different and I don't know what to expect. And some days are good, some days are terrible, some days are amazing. Like every day is different, and that's an exciting place to be.
It is.
How about
I
you?
can see that. I can definitely, wow. I mean, I can definitely see that. I mean, so COVID for you, it was a quote unquote an enlightening experience
Yes.
because you got a chance to sit down and think about how you wanted when this all, kind of blew over. I mean, I don't know if it has or not, but you know what I mean? Like when things open back up, whatever, you're like, okay, now I know this is what I need my life to be like. You did some self-examining and you said, this is what I need my life to be like.
Well, it's just I looked at what I'd been through over the last
Right.
5 to 7 years because I went through a lot of tough times,
Mm-hmm.
difficult times, experiences that weren't good or pleasant. That it was rough. It was hard. Most of my 20s has been quite difficult, to be honest, and some of the hardest times in my life. And when I came back here, it was kind of like it's almost like deflating a balloon, and then now you're pumping the air back in.
Oh, what? Oh, is it because? Well, let me ask you then. Yeah, why so? Why do you think so? Because I think I have an idea, but I wanna make sure. Why do you think? What?
What do you mean exactly?
Like you said, deflating a balloon. Is it because, like, when you were there in London, you were doing more stuff, or you were there, like you were doing it, and then you came back here, and you came back to Manchester, and you're kind of like, oh, I got to start all over again. Is that kind of
Was okay. I'll give you some background. So in 2014, I left home. I was 21, and
okay?
I went to university. And so I grew up in London, basically.
Okay.
And I went to a place. I don't know, international viewers. Everyone in the UK will know what I mean. I lived in a place called Surrey, which is about well, it's about 40 minutes away from London by train, but it's not in London. It's like
Okay.
a different. It's like south of England. And I was at uni for 3 years, and first year was great, and then after that, tough times. I won't go into all the reasons why, but yeah, there were tough times,
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, yeah.
and then I went abroad for 3 years. I lived abroad in Europe, and again, more tough times. Not all
Mhm.
bad, by the way, but just you know difficult things.
I
Like
get it.
especially when I look back, like because at the time I just dealt with it as best as I could, and savored the good things, tried to just get through the bad things. What you do in life,
Right.
right? And then when I got back to England and after all of that, and I sort of sat down to compress the last 7 years of my life, I was like, oh, wow, okay. Because then you start reflecting on things a lot. And the more time you have to reflect on things and examine things, the more you realize about yourself, about life, about everything, and you look at things differently.
Hmm.
When you're looking back, you always look at things differently to how you did when you lived them, obviously, because you're
Right.
you're a different person. But it's like a retrospective kind of experience where you're learning about yourself and kind of deciding what to do next, but also kind of forgiving yourself, giving yourself some leeway, being like, hey, you know what, like we got through that. Like you don't have to punish yourself about it. Like you can take what you need to learn from it, move on. Because life is going to move forward with or without you. Like,
Sure.
and one thing I've learned is to stop resisting life and change and to just embrace it. Like my decision to go freelance was not a light one. I was terrified about the idea of not having a contract, not having a fixed way like paycheck, stuff like that. Um, and then I realized like actually once I started doing it, once life kind of pushed me down that direction. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was my decision to. I took the plunge mostly for acting reasons, is why I did it. Because for those who don't know, acting is freelance. That's the way it works. It's project by project basis.
Right.
Um, I realized that like, okay, this is what I want to do in my life. And it was ironic because even 10, 15 years before that, I used to think about freelance as like this spooky era, like, oh, this mysterious thing, like that's really scary, right? And here I am years later doing it. And I'm like, it's not so bad. It's not easy, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of hard work and you're always seeking work,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot of positives about it. And I mean, for example, freedom, being able to choose when and when I work. I have to work like crazy, but at least I'm getting to pursue the things that I love more than I am spending doing stuff I don't like, you know? And just little things like that, little realizations like that have just blown my mind and made me more grateful. Like I'm much more grateful as a human being now.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself thanking, I don't know, God, universe, whatever, um, for everything that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think back to like where I was, say 5 years ago versus now, and yeah, very thankful, man.
Yeah. It. I think if you have the right attitude, things will happen and things can change, and then you can kind of see it as where was I to, where am I now? But you have to have the right attitude. And the fact that you were able to snap yourself out of it, out of that mode, that, that definitely helps a lot because you have the right attitude. Because you could have easily just gone the other way of, all right, well, I'm not going to act, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let this drag me down for the rest of my life. Right. So I think having the right attitude and knowing which way to go is, yeah. And you did the right thing with the self reflection.
I don't know that I've ever said this what I'm about to say on the podcast before. I've definitely said it in live streams, but the main reason
Mm-hmm.
why I'm pursuing acting and creative endeavors and not doing the 9 to 5
Mm-hmm.
is that like I did that and it made me miserable. And I realized that like I can't force myself to do that. Like I know there's tons of people around the world that do it day in day out, and people
Mm-hmm.
people for different. Everybody is different. That's the
Right.
thing. Like some people are super content with 9 to 5 shift work, whatever. And if you're happy, if it works for your life and what you're into and whatever the makeup of what your life is, if you're happy, roll with it. It doesn't matter what the fuck
Sure.
anyone else is saying. That's their life. Focus on you. If you're
Right.
happy, that's all that matters. But I realized for me specifically, I can't be happy working in a 9 to 5, working for someone else. I just can't. And I felt bad about it. I felt bad at the, oh, I'm being paid a decent check and, my work is piss easy and it's not, difficult.
You're right.
Right. But I felt like an asshole for what, like, for not feeling like it was enough. Like I remember very clearly years ago sitting in this office and I've been working in the job for about 6 or 7 months
Mm-hmm.
and I was just doing like basic marketing work. That's my background, marketing.
Okay.
And I was sick of it. I was bored. I was depressed. I wasn't doing anything creative in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I didn't know at the time that that was the problem, but I was just miserable. And I felt so bad about it. I was like, "Oh, what's wrong with me? Like, are you never happy? Are you never content?" But that right there is integral in the whole point. I can't sit and be content. I can't sit and be like, "Oh, yeah, this is fine." I've got to kind of just throw all of my shit against the wall and hope it all will stick and something will work out because at least I tried. Like if it's like what you said earlier, like if everything I do is a failure, well, at least I put my heart and my soul into it, and I can just
That's
be like,
it.
you know what, I at least I gave my everything, and I die as a failure that tried.
Right.
But if I'd have stuck in those jobs that I hated and never tried and had that what if, that shit would drive me crazy. The what if. You know, what if I have done this? What if I'd done that? I can't live my life with what ifs. It has to be I give it my all or I just don't fucking bother. And that's it.
Yeah. I, I hate to say it, but you're right. And I don't know if it was similar for you that it was for me. Like my whole not wanting to work for everybody or for somebody else moment, I think came when I literally dedicated my whole life to the dealership that sent me to California. I mean, literally from when I was 22 all the way till I was 30, 29. I dedicated my
You're in
whole
your
life to the,
30s? Damn.
yeah,
This guy
yeah,
looking
35.
good. Damn.
Thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, I dedicated my whole life, brought me to California, and then the dealership just shut down. And my life plan was be in the dealership world for my whole life, right? Go finance and general manager, maybe own a dealership later on. I started early, so I was like, okay, and then it completely shut down. And that's when I realized I was like, okay, I can't have a boss. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to have somebody that has complete control over everything, that I'm doing, because similar to you, like it was great, but I felt like I was missing something, and then when I got into the creative world, I was like, okay, this is what I was missing. Like this is it. If I'm going to have a job, it needs to be um, very, very flexible when it
So
comes to hours.
like talk me through that like that process. Like, okay, so you find out this place closes. Like
Yeah,
what's going through your head? Like how do you process that? Like what are your immediate steps?
it, I honestly think that sent me into a depression,
Okay.
because like I said, I gave my whole life to this place. I'm in California, so I'm 2,000 miles away from home.
Gee.
And of course, I'm with a couple of people that came with me that are basically like my family, but I'm still 2,000 miles away from home. And what my whole life's plan, what I had planned out for my life, has completely evaporated because of one person. Because so in my mind, I don't know what to do. My whole life had been kind of very traditional in a way, where 9 to 5 job, like even in California, 9 to 5 job or 9 to 9, whatever. Make money. Eventually, I figured I would get married. Just very traditional, and always tried to do things how they said you're supposed to do it, right? Exactly. But then when that changed, that completely, I think, changed my mindset. And we all have those things that change our mindsets, right? That you can kind of go back and be like, I remember exactly the day that my whole reality changed, and that my whole view on life just completely changed. And that was the day. And then, just fortunate enough to where I was in California, and that's when I got, I think, like my first little extra gig, background gig, just randomly. I don't even know. I don't even remember honestly how it happened, but it was for like, right. You don't remember how it happens.
But like when you're okay, so you finished working with this car dealership, you're going through this tough time mentally, and you're like, okay, but you got to pay the bills, right?
Right.
So like, did you just kind of look at acting as like, oh, like, okay, talk to me about like how it was introduced to you. Like, did someone say, oh, you can make some money doing this? Like, this is easy, and you're like, oh, I'll give that a try, or was it like you'd always been interested in acting and you just sort of thought, I'll give this a go,
Um,
it'll make me money?
so when I knew the dealership was closing, I started learning how to trade stocks.
Oh, okay.
And so I became a day trader. So that way I could, make my own money, and I would have flexibility, if I had to find another job, to find another job. And so I just kind of continued day trading and trading stocks. And then one day I forgot, I was at a gym in West Hollywood, and some random guy came up to me, and he asked me if I did acting or something like that. And I was like, no, because I hadn't thought about it. At that point, I hadn't thought about it. And he said, well, you should, kind of get into at least background or something. And that's when he introduced me to, the acting. And that's when I was in, like I said, a little YouTube thing. I forgot, I think it was for like Lele Pons or something like that. It was, something small, but just being around those people, I was like, this is pretty cool. But the day trading pretty much kept me afloat. And then the acting, then, I was like, oh, this is the kind of money that's in acting. Okay. And then I was an extra and I was like, wait. So 8 hours a day, I can get paid this, or it goes to overtime, and I get free food, right? Because craft services is like unreal, right? Exactly. Craft services is unreal. And you're just like, wait, and I get free food, and I literally don't have to do anything except for stand around, take some directions, maybe sit down and holding for a little bit. Okay, this is easy. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. And then, getting bigger roles and bigger roles. And I was like, okay, there's this kind of money in this. Okay, so maybe a 9 to 5 isn't the lifestyle that I kind of want to live. Maybe I want to live the actor freelance, make my own future type life. And fortunately enough, I've met some great people, yourself included, obviously, that even though it's taken a while, just meeting different people on different platforms, across the country, across the world, across the pond. How random is that? And I've just been grateful since then for just any opportunity that comes up, anything. But that was, man, like I said, I mean, you're in Manchester. I would have never met you. You know what I mean? Like, I would have never been on your podcast, man. If I was
Dude.
in a finance office somewhere.
It does blow my mind. Like I was doing a live stream the other day, and
Yeah.
one of my followers said that she was in, I don't know, California, I guess, and
Yeah.
was just listening to my podcast with her friend in the car. And then another person was like, "Oh yeah, we've been listening to your show like while we've been painting, decorating the house somewhere." And I'm like,
Right.
"What? There are people across the world listening to my stupid voice? Like what?" Like, oh my god, that's amazing. But yeah,
That
man,
is.
it's yeah, the
That is, man.
power
That
of
is. And
possibility.
congratulations, man.
Oh,
I
thank you,
told you,
sir.
like, before I came on this podcast, like, I've watched your stuff.
Oh
I
wow.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Subscribe to all your stuff. Like I said,
Oh,
I don't
thank
have
you, sir.
TikTok. I was subscribed, or but like Instagram. Yeah, I mean, listen, man, anybody that has a creative mindset, and that is bold enough, and that's another thing, like when I'm talking to somebody and we're watching a movie and the movie is stupid, right? The acting is horrible, and it is, but it's not a budget movie, it's not like a high
Yeah.
production movie, right? You kind of expect it, and I try to explain to somebody that's not in the industry. I'm like, listen, you don't understand how hard it is to put yourself out there, right? To put yourself in front of X amount of people, because you'll get judged and whatever. And they say, well, public speaking is like one of the hardest things in the world to do. And so, I'll sit and watching a movie, and okay, the acting is horrible, but just the respect factor, right? Of these people going out in this movie and being like, okay, I know I'm not the best actor, but I'm still going to be on camera. I'm still going to put myself out there that I know only maybe my friends and family is going to see. Like, and just doing anything, putting yourself out there, like, it gives me a greater appreciation and kudos and love for anybody that can do that, because it is hard, right? It is hard to put down your vulnerabilities and to go on camera, for the world, for people to see. It's difficult.
Hmm.
It's especially if you're not used to that. If your bringing was introverted, like if your upbringing was introverted, and now you're like, okay, now I got to flip switch and go outside for the world to see me. That's a difficult thing to do. So that's why I respect those people so much, and anybody that can get on camera, whether it sucks or doesn't, it doesn't matter. Just to be able to get past yourself, right? Get past yourself and say, I'm doing this, you
Fair
know?
play, man. Fair play. I agree with that. Well,
Yeah.
this has been an absolutely amazing show. It's been one of my
Oh man,
longest
yes, sir.
for a long time. We're up to 2 hours and 21 minutes.
Oh
Madness.
man, it's been that long. Oh man, it's time for me to take a nap. 35 hit me
Damn.
hard.
As my final question to you, do you have any upcoming projects or some final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, upcoming projects. I'm still doing my show. So those episodes will still be coming out. I do have a movie, small feature film that I was in since I've been back
Hey,
here. Actually, it's called Mackenzie, and so that should be out in September. Also on Tubi, Shattered Choices as well. So that was another little small film that I was in. But that's just kind of been what I've been doing since I've been back in Illinois for the past couple of weeks, just trying to keep myself busy, while I'm here before I, head back across the country. And yeah, I mean, and that's basically it. And of course, this project, which I've been looking forward to be honest with you, Ben, I've been looking forward to this for a couple of weeks. Since
damn.
you told me, yeah, since you told me about it, like I was looking forward to this for a couple of weeks because this is, I mean, to be on a podcast. Like you don't understand. Like I'm still so new to this industry that everything blows my mind. Everything is like, holy crap. He wants me to be on a podcast? Like, okay. Like everything, just every opportunity. I'm just like, oh, me? Are you sure? Have you seen me? Like, do you know who I am? Really? You want me to be on it? Oh, okay, I guess. Like so I mean it, like I said, thank you. Thank you, man.
This, thank you, man. You've been absolutely incredible. I've really enjoyed talking to you about all of this. Like this started as me wanting to just understand what your show was, and it's evolved
Right.
into just a
Like, what the heck are
massive.
you doing on there? Right.
No. No. I will say this, and I mean it. I honestly do. I think there's legs with that project. I think it just needs tweaking.
Okay.
Like a good idea is a good idea. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes things just need tweaking. Like, crikey, my show, this podcast needed a lot of tweaking. Like one of the biggest things I had to learn to do, which people have remarked on as well, is trying to make it flow better. I used to be so
Okay.
rigid and not really. I wasn't really a particularly great interviewer. I don't think I was too shy and nervous, and it just didn't flow very well. It's like awkward. It'd be like going from one question to the next, and one thing I've really tried to do is make it like flow better and be more conversational, and
Right.
and then it just kind of became that. And that's what I pride myself on, and other things like being able to ad lib and just kind of just be in the moment, be in the zone, stop worrying about the show, and just make it a good piece of
A
entertainment that people can
conversation.
enjoy. Right, but that people can
Have a
enjoy.
conversation. Right.
Yeah, so yeah, I believe in what you're doing, and yeah, just thank you so much for this wonderful conversation, man. Really appreciate it. You're always welcome back on the show.
Thanks,
And
man. Thanks. And
yeah,
and here, any criticisms, tweakages, or whatever, that you have for my show, please, call me. I mean, you like I say, you have all my information, send me a message, something, let me know. Because, like I mentioned before, every single episode, every single season, I want to get better,
hmm,
right? I wanted to move up. I saw where it was, and I have a vision of where it can go.
okay,
I might not necessarily know how to get it there, but I have a vision of how it can go. And so any criticisms, any tweakages, anything that anybody said, like I'm all ears. I'm listening. Any stories that somebody has that they'll tell me, okay, listen, this person dot 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 dot, and they're like, okay, can you make that into something? I'm in. Like you know what I mean? Like I'll sit in a dark room and I will create a weird story. Like I will make it into something crazy, But and so anybody that's willing to engage, I'm definitely all ears. I'm not like, hey, this is my show. I'm not doing it this way because this. No, 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 no. I'm like, okay, look, if you think that'll make it better, I'll try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Big deal. If it does work, cool. What other ideas you got? So, I'm definitely open to everything, to criticism, tweakage, tweaks, whatever. So, and you got your stuff on together. So, anything you want to tell me for sure, please just, send me a message and I'll be all right, cool. I'll add it to the next episode, whatever, I'm in.
thank you so much, man. It's really been a pleasure,
No,
and
no problem, man. Like I
all the
say, you
best to
have
you.
my utmost respect. Yeah, utmost respect, man, for everything that you're doing. And like I say, you've come a long way, man. So thank you. I'm proud to be on this show.
Yeah, and you have my respect too, man. Thank you so much. And to all the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, as always, be safe, be well, and I'll see you in the next one.